opens up the box and plays the game. He never reads instructions cause they're lame. He's Bowser. He plays the game so badly, his eyes are twitching madly. He's here again so sadly. He's Bowser.
Hello, welcome back. Right, as you can tell from the title, this is not a ZX Spectrum related video. Now, last April, I did a video celebrating the 35th birthday of the release of the Spectrum, which was released in 1982, as we all know. But today, 5th of March 2018, marks the 37th anniversary of the release of the Spectrum's predecessor, the ZX81. Which for me is where it all sort of started, my sort of love of computing, computers, etc. So I just wanted to do a quick ramble. It is going to be a ramble. I'm not working off any scripts. This is all coming out of this big fat head. You can see how long the video is going to last. I'm going to pose some questions, etc. And let's just see where it goes. So yeah, for me, the ZX81 is where it all started. It's astonishing to think that it's now sort of 37 years old, and you look at what's around and available today and you see how sort of primitive the machine actually is, released with just 1K of memory together with you could expand with a 16K RAM pack, which was notoriously unreliable. Now, I didn't get a ZX81 until 1983, by which time the Spectrum was already out, but for me it was, you know, it was something else. It was our sort of gaming had been confined to those Binatone TV games that were just variants of Pong, and tabletop games such as your Astro Wars, Scramble, some of the Nintendo Game & Watch games, etc. So up until we got the ZX81, it didn't know sort of anything about computers or computing really, other than sort of like what my friends had. The school had a couple of great big computers on that had to be wheeled in on a kind of trolley. I don't know what they were. The discs on them were the size of dinner plates, etc. But yeah, I remember we got it. It was from Boots in Folkestone. It was for my 11th birthday in 1983. And my parents surprised me with it. They bought me the ZX81 itself, they bought me the RAM pack, and also a tape recorder to use on it, which was obviously a necessity if you wanted to load or save anything. And I couldn't wait to get it home. I was so sort of excited, etc. And the thing is, with the ZX81, I don't have one to show you. I don't have one in my collection anymore. If you want to see some good examples of software that was available on the ZX81 and how sort of primitive it was in comparison to what was released on later Sinclair models and other computers, then by all means check out Villordsutch's channel, because he is a big ZX81 fan, and he's done an awful lot of ZX81 stuff over the years. Over the last few months, I mean, and he's also got his original ZX81. Now, looking back on it now, it's an incredibly primitive piece of kit, but also incredibly sort of clever, being able to do what it did for what it was. You know, it was about the size of a small birthday card, you know, like or a big birthday card. Odd shape, strange keyboard that you know, didn't have any sort of physical keys, etc. And of course there's the RAM pack itself, which was notoriously twitchy. The slightest knock or jump or twitch or anything would set the thing to crash the whole computer. So if you were typing in a program from a magazine listing, etc., and you accidentally knock the table with your leg or something like that, that could cause the RAM pack to wobble and you'd lose everything. It was a royal pain in the backside. So although it was hugely primitive in terms of you know, of what followed it, I also had a lot of great fun with the ZX81. Games-wise, I can't remember having that many games. I think we had Football Manager, and also some kind of game from Quicksilver, which was kind of like a sort of strategy game, sort of like a version of Elite, not with all the fancy graphics or anything like that, but instead of taking place out in space, it took place on the oceans. You were kind of like an ocean trader. And I think that's even what the game was called, Ocean Trader. And that game was quite engrossing. Really, really, really was fantastic sort of game to play. And used to type things in from magazines back in the day. One of the ones myself and my brother, we toiled over for quite a while was like a sort of bomber game, you know, where you've got the cityscape, you've got the plane flying over it, and you've got to destroy all the sort of buildings. We typed one in and managed to get it working. I think the plane was like a less than arrow, and the bombs were asterisks and stuff like that. You know, stuff was really sort of primitive graphically on the ZX81. So a lot was left to your imagination in terms of you know, what on-screen graphics were supposed to represent. And you know, didn't really have it for all that long, because the following year we got the Spectrum, and the ZX81 kind of sort of started to gather dust. Got it out occasionally at times, but with the Spectrum, sorry, with the ZX81, so with the Spectrum, there didn't seem to be any need anymore to actually have the ZX81 around. It's long gone, my ZX81. I don't know where it is, what happened to it. If I'd known then what I know now about how sort of popular retro computing, early computers are, I'd have definitely have kept hold of it, not for selling purposes, but purely for nostalgia, because you know, it has a place. Now, design-wise, again, I'm having to assume here that you know what a ZX81 looks like. There is, of course, a graphic in the intro titles to sort of show you. But design-wise, I actually thought the ZX80, the ZX81's predecessor, actually looked nicer. Sort of white with the grille on the top and the blue keys on the black background. But the ZX81 was the advancement, and that's the one that people you know to a huge extent. And there are still games being written for it. People are still very, very enthusiastic about the ZX81. And there's an awful lot in the Micromen docudrama, which I'll pop a link to down below. I'm assuming literally everyone on the planet will have seen that now, which includes some of the story and background of the setup of the ZX80 and the ZX81, and then the Spectrum, etc., detailing their sort of place in the chain of events and things to come for Sinclair Research. Now, yeah, there are still people very, very enthusiastic about the ZX81. There are still games being released. Games in styles now that you would never have thought would have been possible for a 1K stroke 16K machine to achieve, such as, you know, isometric graphics and stuff like that. Really, really, really great looking stuff. And it's worth checking out. So, that's just a quick video celebrating and saying happy birthday ZX81. Old man now, 37 years old. It deserves its place in history, etc. So what I want to know is, as I always ask questions in this, did you own a ZX81? If not, or if you did, what are your recollections, memories of it, etc. If ZX81 wasn't a computer that you had, what did you start with? For example, did you start with a VIC-20, one of the Atari machines, etc., Spectrum, whatever? Just let me know what your experiences are. But if you do know of the ZX81, if you are an aficionado of it, I'd be really, really interested in hearing your thoughts, memories and experiences of it. Now, in a few years' time, it will be 40 years old. Imagine that. You know, we laugh at it now, how, you know, 16K back then sort of sounded massive, but, you know, what is that in today's terms? You know, how, you know, we've got mobile phones that are a quarter the size of, I've got this, my sort of mobile phone. It's about a quarter the size of what the ZX81 was, and it's got 64 gigs of memory. That's an insane amount of memory, and that fills up so quickly. So, you know, in today's terms, I'm not a techno boffin, you know, how useless is 16K for something? Because that really sort of shows how fantastic some of the people that were designing games for the ZX81, that they managed to cram and get out of 16K as much as they did. Games like Monster Maze, Maze, oh, I always get this mixed up. Is it Mazox on the ZX81 and Maze-X on the Spectrum? Or is it the other way round? Please correct me. Anyway, that was just a very, very quick ramble, just sharing my experiences of the ZX81. I loved it when I had it. It's a shame I don't have one around nowadays. It's well deserving of its place in computing history as a stepping stone onto bigger and better things that eventually followed. You know, the whole sort of think about the British software scene and Sinclair's like managing to miniaturise things and make things available at a price that most people and families could afford back then. It's fantastic. Right, rambling over. I really am going to stop myself here. If you like the video, please let me know. If you wish to subscribe, please do so. But if you do subscribe, please, please, please take the time to join in the comments. I will pop a link to Villordsutch's channel down below. Please check him out, especially if you are interested in the ZX81 and what it can still offer today. Thanks ever so much for watching. Take care. Goodbye.